The alley of cold shadows, the rain fell hard on the metal streets of Vorek City. The night sky was covered in thick black clouds, and the lights from the towers above made the wet ground shine like glass. Two young alien girls sat in the corner of a narrow alley. They had no coats, no shoes, nothing to protect them from the cold. Their skin was pale blue, marked with dirt. Their eyes were large and tired, but still searching the shadows for danger. The older one, Lyra, wrapped her thin arms around the younger Sela, trying to keep her warm. Sela was shivering, her small body trembling against Lyra's chest. "Stay quiet," Lyra whispered. "Don't let them hear us." From the street outside the alley came the sound of boots splashing through puddles. Vorek City guards were passing by. Their armor clinked with each step, and the red glow from their visors lit up the rain. The guards didn't care about people like Lyra and Sela. Homeless aliens were invisible to them, unless someone put a price on their heads. The sisters had been hiding for 3 days now. They had stolen a piece of bread from a market stall, and the stall owner had called the hunters. The hunters never forgave. Sela's stomach growled softly. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. Lyra gently rubbed her back, but she had nothing to give. Then, sound broke through the rain, a slow, steady step that didn't match the rhythm of the guards. It was heavier, deeper, but unhurried. Like whoever it was didn't fear the streets at night. The sisters pressed deeper into the shadows. A tall figure appeared at the mouth of the alley. The rain slid down the black coat he wore. His boots stopped just short of the puddle where the alley began. It was not a Vorek's guard. Not a hunter either. It was a human. Humans were rare here. Some aliens had never even seen one in person. Lyra had only heard stories. Some said humans were dangerous warriors. Others said they were mercenaries who would do anything for money. This one stood in silence, looking at them. His face was partly hidden under a hood, but his eyes were sharp and alive, watching them closely. "You too," he said, his voice calm but strong. "How long have you been here?" Lyra didn't answer. She pulled Sela closer, afraid he might be another kind of danger. He stepped forward slowly. "You're freezing," he said, "and starving." Sela peeked up at him. "We're fine," she whispered, though her teeth were chattering. The man's gaze softened. "No, you're not." For a moment, no one moved. The rain filled the silence. Then the man said something that made Lyra's heart stop. "Both of you. Come with me." Lyra shook her head quickly. "We don't know you." "I know," he said. "But I know this: if you stay here, you won't survive the night." His voice was steady, like he was stating a fact, not a threat. Still, Lyra hesitated. Trust was dangerous. The man crouched, so he was at their eye level. "My name's Kale," he said. "I have food, warm clothes, a safe place. No one will hurt you there." Sela looked up at Lyra with wide, hopeful eyes. "Lyra, please." Lyra's chest tightened. She had kept them alive by avoiding strangers, by running from everyone. But Sela's lips were pale from the cold. If they stayed, Sela might not see the morning. Kale stood again and stepped back, giving them space. "Your choice," he said. "But decide now. It's not safe out here." From somewhere down the street came a low, metallic growl. Lyra's blood ran cold. She knew that sound. The hunters had released their hound. Kale's eyes shifted toward the noise, then back to them. "We move. Now." Lyra didn't even think. She pulled Sela to her feet, and they followed Kale out of the alley. The street was almost empty, except for the rain and the shadows of tall buildings. Kale walked quickly, glancing around as if he knew every corner and every danger. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked. "Somewhere they can't follow," Kale said. They turned down another street, crossed under a broken sign, and stopped in front of a massive steel gate. Its surface glowed faintly with strange patterns. "No one goes through here." Lyra whispered. Kale smirked. "That's what they think." He placed his hand on a hidden panel. Lights flickered, locks clicked, and the gate slowly slid open with a deep rumble. Warm light spilled out from inside. Lyra and Sella exchanged a glance. The air from beyond the gate smelled of food and safety. But on the wall just inside, Lyra's eyes caught something, a black, claw-shaped mark burned into the metal. Her breath caught in her throat. It was the mark of the hunters. The door that should not open, the black, claw-shaped mark burned into the steel wall, made Lyra's knees weaken. Sella gripped her sister's arm. "Lyra, that's their sign." Kale glanced at the mark, but didn't slow down. "I know what it is," he said. "Now get inside before the street cameras pick you up." Lyra froze. You work for them." Kale didn't answer. He stepped through the gate, his coat brushing the metal as the heavy door began to slide shut. The warm light spilling out began to narrow. Sella tugged at Lyra's sleeve, desperate. "Please, Lyra, we can't stay out here." Behind them, the metallic growl from earlier came again, this time closer. Water splashed as something heavy moved in the street. Lyra's heart pounded. She looked once at the narrowing gap of light, then shoved Sella inside and stepped through just before the gate sealed shut with a loud clang. Inside, it was another world. The air was warm and dry. The floor was smooth black stone, clean enough to reflect the soft golden glow from hanging lamps. The smell of hot bread drifted through the hall, making Sella's stomach growl loudly. A row of small metal boxes lined one wall, each marked with strange symbols. On the other side, shelves held folded clothes, not rags, but real clothes. Sella took a hesitant step toward the shelves, but Lyra grabbed her wrist. "Don't touch anything," she whispered. Kale removed his wet coat and hung it on a hook. Without looking at them, he said, "You can eat, you can warm up, but don't wander. There are places here you're not ready to see." Sella bit her lip. "Why is there mark here?" Kale finally turned to face them. His eyes were steady, unreadable. "Because once, this place belonged to them. I took it from them." Lyra didn't know whether to believe him. No one took anything from the hunters and lived. Before she could reply, Kale walked to one of the shelves and pulled down two thick gray blankets. He handed one to each of them. "Sit there," he said, pointing to a long bench near the wall. "I'll bring food." They sat. The warmth of the blanket felt strange, almost heavy after so many nights in the cold. Kale disappeared into a side room. Lyra scanned the hall, looking for exits, traps, anything. She noticed small black eyes in the corners of the ceiling, security drones, silent but watching. Sella leaned closer. "Do you think he's telling the truth?" "I don't know," Lyra whispered. "But if this is his place, it's not safe." A soft hum filled the air. It was low, almost like a heartbeat in the walls. Lyra couldn't tell if it was machinery or something alive. Kale returned, carrying two steaming bowls. He set them on a small table in front of the sisters. The smell made Sella's hands twitch toward the spoon. "Eat," Kale said. Sella didn't hesitate. She dug in, closing her eyes as the warmth spread through her body. Lyra took a slower bite, watching Kale. "You said this place used to be theirs," Lyra said. "If they come back, they won't," Kale interrupted. "Not yet. Not yet." Lyra's stomach tightened, and when they do, Kale's gaze darkened. "Then they'll find out I'm not the same man they remember." Before Lyra could ask more, a sharp tone echoed through the hall. "What of the security?" Drones dropped from the ceiling and projected a small red light onto the wall. A blurry image appeared, the street outside the gate. In it, 3 tall figures in black armor stood in the rain. The hunters. Sela froze with the spoon halfway to her mouth. They found us. Cale's hand moved to the weapon on his belt. His voice was calm, but there was steel in it now. There early. The mark of the enemy, the red light from the drone flickered, and the blurry shapes on the wall became sharper. 3 hunters stood in the rain, their armor dripping, their visors glowing like burning coals. They didn't move. They were waiting, Sela whispered. Why aren't they breaking in? Cale's jaw tightened. Because they want me to open the door. They want to see if I'm afraid. Lyra's heart pounded. Are you? Cale didn't answer. Instead, he pressed a button on the wall. The image from the drone vanished, replaced by a flat black screen. Then he turned to them. You asked about the mark. You should know what it means. He walked to the steel wall where the claw-shaped burn scar was still visible. His gloved fingers brushed it. This is the mark of the blood hunters. Once they claim a target, they do not stop. They follow until the target is dead or taken. Sela hugged her blanket tighter. They destroyed our village. Cale's eyes moved to her. For the first time, his voice softened. I know. Lyra stiffened. Do you mean, you know? I was there, Cale said quietly. Not with them, against them. Lyra's eyes narrowed. That's not possible. No one fights the hunters and lives. Cale's gaze was steady. I lived. I took this place from them as payment. The drone above gave a low mechanical click, drawing his attention. He pressed another button on the wall, and a different image appeared. Not the street outside, but a dim hallway deep within the building. Shadows moved there, slow and deliberate. There. Inside, Cale said. Sela gasped. But the gate, they're not at the gate, Cale interrupted. They're in the lower tunnels. Lyra's blood went cold. How did they? Cale was already moving, pulling a long black weapon from a hidden compartment in the wall. It hummed faintly, glowing along its edges. You two stay here. Don't follow me. No matter what you hear. But Sela grabbed his coat. If they find us, they won't, Cale said, his voice like stone. They're here for me. He stepped toward the far door, the hum of his weapon growing louder. The warm air in the hall suddenly felt heavy, like it was warning them to breathe quietly. Lyra pulled Sela close. We shouldn't stay here. Sela's voice was barely a whisper. Where will we go? Before Lyra could answer, a sound ripped through the walls, a deep, metallic roar that made the floor tremble. Sela's eyes widened. That's not a hunter. The lights flickered. Somewhere deep in the building, heavy claws scraped against metal. Cale paused at the door and looked back at them. Stay alive, he said, and then he was gone into the shadows. Lyra and Sela sat frozen, the hum of the weapon fading with his steps. Then, from the black screen on the wall, a new image appeared, a close-up of a monstrous face with eyes like molten gold, stared straight at them, and it smiled. The roar from the sky, the face on the screen, didn't blink. Its golden eyes burned like fire, and its smile was too wide. Too sharp. Then, with a sudden flicker, the screen went black. Before Lyra could breathe, a deafening boom shook the building. Dust rained from the ceiling. Sela clutched her arm. What was that? A second boom came, louder, and the walls trembled. This time they heard it, the deep, bone-shaking roar of the creature from the screen. But the sound wasn't coming from inside the tunnels. It was coming from above. Lyra ran to the small high window in the corner and looked up at the night sky through the rain and swirling clouds. A massive shape was descending. Black and silver armor covered its body, and giant mechanical wings cut through the air with a sound like tearing metal. Floodlights blazed from its shoulders, sweeping across the rooftops. Sella's eyes widened. It's flying. Lyra pulled her away from the window. Not just flying, it's hunting. From somewhere deeper in the building, Kale's voice roared through the intercom. Stay away from the windows. But it was too late. The floodlight from above found their room, locking onto it. The beam was blinding, making the rain glow like falling sparks. Sella shielded her eyes. They've seen us. Another sound joined the roar, the high-pitched whine of energy weapons charging. The light outside grew brighter, and the air began to hum. Kale's voice came again, hard and sharp. Down. Now. Lyra threw herself over Sella, just as a beam of white-hot energy tore through the wall. Stone and metal exploded inward, showering them with shards. The warmth of the safe house was gone, replaced by the icy rain pouring through the hole. Through the smoking gap, the golden-eyed creature peered inside. Its armored claws gripped the wall, bending the steel as if it were paper. It spoke. Its voice low and rumbling like an avalanche. The prey is here, Sella whimpered. Lyra's instinct screamed to run, but the thing blocked the only opening. Then, without warning, Kale was there. He burst through a side door, weapon blazing with white light. The sound it made wasn't like a gunshot, it was a deep thrum, as if the weapon was cutting the air itself. The blast hit the creature's face, making it stagger back with a snarl. Rain hissed against its smoking armor. Kale didn't stop. He fired again, forcing it to release the wall. With a screech of metal, the monster launched itself backward into the sky, its wings unfolding wide. But it didn't leave. It hovered above, circling like a hawk. Kale turned to the sisters. Move, now. We're leaving. Sela's voice trembled. Leave. Where? It's up there. Kale's eyes narrowed. That's why we use the tunnels. Another roar split the night, closer this time. The lights from the creature's wings swept across the building again. Kale pushed them toward the inner hall. Once we're below, it can't follow. Lyra grabbed his arm. Can't follow or won't. Kale looked at her for a moment, and in that brief silence, she understood. There were worse things in the tunnels than the monster in the sky. The building shook again as something heavy landed on the roof. Run, Kale said. Now, the human who wouldn't step back the tunnel air was thick and heavy, smelling of rust and old fire. The walls dripped with water from the rain above, and every sound echoed too long as if the dark was holding on to it. Kale led the way, his weapon glowing faintly. Lyra kept Sella close behind him, glancing over her shoulder with every step. Above them, faint thuds followed the golden-eyed creature walking along the roof. Its claws scraped the metal in long, slow strokes, as if it enjoyed letting them know it was still there. Then a new sound came, this one from ahead. A slow, dragging scrape, like metal chains being pulled across stone. Kale stopped. Sella whispered. It's in front of us, too. Kale's eyes narrowed, not at them. From the shadows ahead, shapes began to move. Tall, thin figures with glowing red eyes stepped into the faint light of Kale's weapon. They were hunters, but their armor was scarred. Their movements unnatural, jerky, like puppets pulled by invisible strings. Lyra's breath caught. They're wrong. They're what happens when the tunnels take you, Kale said coldly. They're not alive anymore. The creatures began to close in, their heads twitching, their clawed hands twitching open and shut. From above came a heavy crash, the roof dented inward, dust falling like snow. The golden-eyed monster was trying to break through. They were trapped, Sella's voice cracked. We can't fight both. Kale stepped forward, putting himself between the sisters and the hunters. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but it carried weight. "If you want them," he said, looking at the creatures ahead, "you'll have to go through me." The first hunter rushed, its claws flashing. Kale's weapon blazed, slicing through. Its armor like paper. It fell in 2 pieces, sparks hissing from its joints. Another lunged from the side. Kale spun, the blade of energy carving a bright arc through the darkness. Lyra grabbed Sella's hand. "Stay behind him." Above them, the roof gave another boom, and a huge claw punched through, barely missing Kale's head. The monsters. Golden eyes peered down, full of hunger. Kale didn't flinch. He struck the claw, sending a burst of light and heat up into the sky. The monster roared, pulling back in fury. "Keep moving." Kale barked, shoving the sisters toward a side path. The tunnel narrowed, the sound of the hunter's claws scraping stone chasing them from behind. From above, the creature's shadow followed, its wings beating the air in slow, deadly rhythm. They reached a heavy metal door. Kale slammed his palm on the panel, and it slid open just enough for them to slip inside. As the door sealed shut, a deep, echoing roar shook the ground beneath their feet. Sella's voice was barely a whisper. What was that? Kale's face was grim. Not the sky beast, something older. In the dark ahead, 2 glowing eyes opened, not golden, but a pale, unnatural white, and they were already inside. The beast in the streets, the pale eyes didn't blink. They hung in the darkness like 2 moons, cold and empty. Then they moved. A massive shape stepped into the dim light, skin like cracked stone, muscles shifting under it like coiled cables. Its head was too low, its back arched, and its long arms dragged claws across the floor, leaving deep, smoking lines. Sella's breath hitched. "What is it?" Kale's voice was low, almost a growl. "Something that shouldn't be here." Then, creature's jaw opened slowly, wider than it should have, until its mouth split into 4 jagged sections. A low rumble came from deep inside its chest. Lyra grabbed Sella's arm. "We have to go." The thing moved faster than their eyes could follow. In one heartbeat, it was across the tunnel, claws smashing into the wall where they had stood. A second ago, stone exploded in a cloud of dust. Kale shoved the sisters behind him. "Run when I say, not before." The pale-eyed beast leaned low, sniffing the air, its breath a stench of rot and hot metal. Then it spoke, not in words, but in a deep, vibrating growl that shook their bones. Above them, the golden-eyed sky monster roared in answer. Sella's face went pale. They're talking to each other. Kale didn't take his eyes off the beast. It's not talking, it's making deals. The pale eyes narrowed, and suddenly it lunged again. Kale met it mid-charge, his weapon blazing with white heat. The blade carved across the creature's chest, but instead of falling, it only staggered, molten light oozing from the wound before sealing shut. "It heals," Lyra whispered. Kale gritted his teeth. Not fast enough. He struck again, aiming for the eyes, but the beast ducked low, its claws swiping at his legs. Kale leaped back, landing hard but still standing. The sisters pressed against the wall, trapped between fear and the sound of the sky monster smashing at the roof above. The tunnel shook, dust falling like rain. Kale shouted over his shoulder. Left now. Lyra yanked Silatoire a narrow side passage. The pale-eyed beast roared, spinning to follow, but Kale slammed his weapon into the wall controls. A thick steel barrier dropped between them, cutting the tunnel in half. The beast's claws tore at the door, sparks flying. "Keep moving," Kale barked, shoving them ahead. They burst out into open air. Lyra stopped, stunned. They were no longer underground. They stood on a broken street lit by the glow of burning buildings. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy with smoke, and there, in the middle of the street, stood the golden-eyed creature. Its wings were half-folded, its claws dripping with water, and its gaze was locked on them. Kale stepped in front of the sisters again, his weapon humming louder than ever. "You two stay behind me." The sky monster's head tilted, almost curious. Then it spoke in a deep, chilling voice. "The pale one is mine. But the prey is yours to claim." Lyra's heart froze. Something huge moved in the shadows behind them. The pale-eyed beast had found another way out. They were surrounded. The choice to stay. The golden-eyed creature moved first. With a single beat of its wings, it shot forward, claws outstretched. The air split with the force of its dive at the same moment. The pale-eyed beast lunged from behind, its claws scraping sparks from the street as it came in low, jaws open. Kale didn't hesitate. He threw himself sideways, slamming into Lyra and Sela, knocking them out of the direct path of the attacks. The two monsters collided in the space. Where the sisters had stood, the sound was like stones smashing into steel. The street cracked beneath them. The creatures roared at each other, their voices shaking the air. Sparks and fragments of broken pavement flew in all directions as they fought. Kale pulled the sisters behind the wreckage of an overturned vehicle. His breathing was sharp and fast, but his eyes were locked on the fight. "This is our chance," he said. "We can run. I can get you out of the city." Lyra's heart pounded. "And you?" Kale looked past them at the towering black spire in the distance, the Hunter Fortress. "I'm not leaving until this ends." Sela's eyes filled with fear. "If you stay, you'll die." Kale's voice hardened. "If I leave, so will you." Another crash shook the street. The golden-eyed monster threw the pale-eyed beast through the wall of a nearby building. The sound of metal screaming echoed down the block. Kale grabbed Lyra's shoulder. "You have one choice. Go and live without looking back, or stay and fight beside me." Lyra's mind spun. She had spent her life running. She had told. Her self-safety was found in shadows, in hiding, in silence. But in the days since meeting Kale, she had seen something else. A man who didn't bow. Didn't run, even when death was staring into his eyes. She looked at Sela, who was staring back at her with trembling lips. I don't want to hide anymore," Sela whispered. Lyra's chest tightened. She turned to Kale. "Then we stay." A flicker of something, not quite a smile, crossed Kale's face. "Good." The pale-eyed beast burst from the ruins, its body steaming, and the golden-eyed monster launched to meet it again. Kale rose to his feet, weapon blazing white-hot. "Then let's end this." The three of them stepped from behind the wreckage into the burning street. The two monsters turned toward them, their eyes blazing in the smoke. And together, Kale, Lyra, and Sela charged forward.